Hello and welcome to Dialogue. Established in 2001, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is tasked with a special focus on regional security, stability, and development, and thus is instrumental for the security and defense exchanges featured in the Beijing Xiangshan Forum. How had the SCO contributed to the regional security over the past 20-plus years? Why is the organization so attractive to countries? How should the SCO and regional countries engage Afghanistan? To help us answer these questions and more, I'm joined by Vladimir Norov, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Uzbekistan and former SCO Secretary General. That's our topic. I'm Xu Qinduo. Welcome to Dialogue, Mr. Norov. It's been more than 20 years of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and you were the Secretary General of the organization. Tell us, how do you look at the past 20-plus years of the development of the organization?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Really, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization established in 2001 when Uzbekistan joined it to 5 countries, China, Russia, and 3 Central Asian countries, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, had the agreement about trust on border. And this was very situation when in Afghanistan, civil war were very active, and many terrorist organizations had headquarters on territory of Afghanistan, and drug production was very actively raised, and many terrorist acts was organized in Uzbekistan in territory of our neighboring countries as Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. That's why this organization from beginning was focused on peace and stability in Central Asia, because Central Asia is the core of this organization. In 2004, by initiative of our leaders, in Tashkent was established a regional anti-terroristic structure of SCO, and this platform played an important role for law enforcement and the security services to join efforts for sharing information about terroristic organization, about the leaders of these members of this terrorist organization. And this structure, for example, when joined to SCO, India and Pakistan, there was some rumor that SCO will be more weak because some problems between 2 countries will negatively impact on efficiency of this organization. But in contrary, in framework of regional anti-terroristic structure, representatives from these countries, and they played important role for strengthening peace and security and joining efforts for fighting against these 3 evils.
So you're talking about Pakistan and India?
Yes, Pakistan and India, they joined it in 2017 in Astana summit. SCO was signed a special document about joining this organization. Last year it was summit of India, India first time had the presidency, and in Delhi it was summit of SCO. This year in Delhi it was summit. Online, but nevertheless it was important steps. And for example, how it is effectively working a regional anti-terroristic structure, I can say that from this time in Central Asia we had no any terroristic acts, and it was possible by establish mutual trust, mutual respect between countries, Central Asian countries. It was SCO played an important role on developing situation in our countries in stable and sustainable way.
We know that at least a part of the mission, or probably the major mission of this organization, is to fight this, so-called 3 isms, let's say, terrorism, separatism, and extremism. Is that does that remain, this major mission of the SCO?
Yes, certainly. As I told you at the beginning, that organization was established, first of all, and raised the threat to stability and security of Central Asian countries and neighboring the same time we in China or in Russia, the 2 big powers, members of SCO. But what I can say is there, first of all, we should understand the nature of SCO. SCO is not military political bloc. It is sometimes in some narrative in some mass media, the anti-Western or anti-NATO, not.
Right. I was planning to have you to talk about that because a lot of people, in particular people out of this region, they have some misunderstanding or lack of understanding of SCO.
Yes, it is misunderstanding because there is, in SCO, there is not any supranational structure, for example. Yes, there is each member state joined to SCO on voluntary base. And decision-making, nevertheless, there were two big powers. Now India joined its third big powers with nuclear arms. There is decision made on the basis of consensus. Nevertheless, there is your territory, your economy or population. The small countries like Central Asia, Tajikistan or Kyrgyzstan, all have the equal right. No one decision will be taken without consensus. That's why this organization played an important role for respecting the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and non-interference in internal affairs of countries. It is main principles, and Shanghai Spirit, such named, which is outlined the principles of organization. It is mutual trust, mutual respect, and mutual development. It is important, and regardless, certainly, we understand today there is, if not security, you have not economic development. If you have not economic development, you have not security. It is interconnected to each other. We see it is in any part of the world. That's why this main one focus, it is on the integrity, economic integrity. And you rightly said the three evils, terrorism, extremism, separatism, from the beginning was outlined in main documents of SCO. The Charter of SCO, which is adopted in 2002, where is outlined that the countries will join efforts against this evil. And such activity based on following the main principle of international law and respecting the United Nations, all the adopted in framework of this organization, all documents, it allowed to our countries to obtain some sustainability. It is in time of coronavirus, certainly, it was serious challenge for our organization when we face it then in some isolation in some countries or protectionism in some part of the world. In Central Asia, they focus it on sharing, experience sharing and assistance to each other for strengthening the capacity of our countries. And today we know that it is serious threat to humanity in spreading infection. 1 million people every year infected by infection, and every day dying 50,000 men. That's why the SCO in this way played, because the China, India, for example, mostly China supported by vaccine to Central Asian countries and others. And that's why SCO became attractive for many countries from Middle East and Southeast Asia.
Probably let's focus a little bit on, earlier mentioned about the security issue right here, the fighting in particular against the terrorism. We know that here, the Central Asian nations, and then we have Afghanistan there. Currently, Afghanistan, the government is not officially recognized by other countries as legitimate, the ruling class there, but still there are engagement, now and then with the government. What about this, let's say, the lack of a complete stability or security issue in that country? Is there any spillover effects? Is there any concern for other regional countries?
Yes, certainly. President Uzbekistan Shavkat Mirziyoyev, elected in 2017, beginning his jobs as a president, he first announced that Afghanistan is a part of Central Asia, geographically, historically, ethnically. It is part of Central Asia. And that's why we try to integrate Afghanistan to our economy of region. And Uzbekistan, it is only country which constructed railroad from Termez on Body to Mazar-e Sharif. The trillion, perhaps, dollars was spent during the last decades for stability in these countries by other countries, but practically made feasible work made by Uzbekistan. And that's why they are living several million Uzbek on the border. There's Tajik, and the Turkmen neighboring nations. And that's why we are focused stability and security in Afghanistan. It is main factor for stability in Central Asia. Certainly, Taliban came to the power by decision of big powers. I think, yes, it is reality. It is not our decision. And we certainly cooperating with Taliban, this government, because we should. And for example, before Taliban, we could not transport, our trucks could not deliver goods to Pakistan or India. We now through Afghan territory transporting. And at the same time, the president of Uzbekistan initiated some project for construction railroad from Termez on our border to Mazar-e Sharif, Kabul, Peshawar. If this railroad will be constructed, so this country will have access to, the economy will rise 50%. We now witnessing in Afghan civil war 40 years. From Soviet time, when Uzbek were involved in Soviet army to go to Afghanistan and to participate in fighting. From this time, we know this, their situation when one generation grow up, which grow up in time of war. They not know the civil life of theirs. The problem of Afghanistan that there is the economy very poor, and nevertheless so many invested in previous time, but feasible not filling. But drug became the main resources of financing terrorism and extremistic activity. And but at the same time, alternative to drug, no one proposed it during this last international community involvement in Afghanistan. And European Union, NATO, there were the others. There were not alternative for replacing. And what we see in Taliban when will come to power, began to strongly fight against corruption. For example, on border Termez Khairaton, where transported every year 6 million, more than 6 or 8 million tons transported through Termez Mazar-e Sharif railroad. The Afghan transporting goods to European Union and other countries and CIS countries, but they raised income from the custom fee several times. So previous regime not gives attention to the corruption, and Taliban, nevertheless, their money is frozen. More than $8 billion, they surviving and developing their economy. And what is certainly, we wanted each 40 years peace and stability in Afghanistan. And now they come to this, they establishing, and they began to construct canal Kushtepa on Afghanistan. This from Amu Darya River. It is Central Asia supplied by water to Amu Darya and Sirdarya. The Uzbekistan, the main consumer of water, because the population of Uzbekistan, the biggest in the region, 36 million. We have 4 million hectares of land, and all these agricultural products could be produced only by irrigation. But they now construction 250 kilometers long, 100 meters wide, and 10 meters deeper. It will take 15 billion cubic meters of water. What we should do? We should fight with them? Not certainly. But they would like to develop 600,000 hectares of land for agriculture. It is really steps for, I think, nevertheless, it is painful for us, because we know the president of Uzbekistan last week made a special session where discussed how we should adjust the situation and how we should rationally use the water resources by developing drip system in agriculture, and at the same time canals which transported water to make beton their shore. But problem in Afghanistan, they going these canals through desert area, and 30% of water will be lost. It is serious challenge. That's why we, in cooperation with Afghan side, to support them to find solutions to these issues. And last year in Uzbekistan in July made a conference, Afghanistan Security and Economic Development. By participation, the representative, all countries who have their special representative on Afghanistan gathered in Tashkent, where discussed the way how we can bring the peace stability. And first time delegation of Taliban headed by Mr. Mutaki participated in this conference, where certainly all sides delivered to Afghan side they should fulfill Doha agreement, the obligation which they take. First of all, not allowing any terroristic organization to threaten neighboring countries. And second, certainly it is protecting the human rights, women's rights, and rights of girls. Uzbekistan, by establishing such partnership with the Taliban, could possible to convince them to allow the in northern part of Afghanistan to go to school. Mm-hmm. Afghan side see the feasible support from Uzbekistan. We, through this railroad, delivering the humanitarian goods. We are 10,000, maybe more goods we delivering during year to Afghanistan. And at the same time, we established it on border area special training center where 300 young men and girls from Afghan side, we training them for 16 professions. At the same time, we made this free trade zone, 2,000 hectares of land, where the Afghan business people can come without visa, not demanded visa. They established special infrastructure for developing their business, and they take the goods to their country or sell anywhere, and to make develop it. Because we should support Afghanistan to develop their economy. I had with Mr. Mutaki, perhaps 2 hour talks, 1 hour when we had such meeting by 2 sides. Second, in lunchtime, I not joined to our all delegation lunch, but joined to Taliban. I explained to him, look, you will be the richest country in the world because you have the $3 trillion mineral reserves. There are reserves of lithium more than in some Latin American countries, which is big in demand.
It seems, Mr. Norov, you are, can I say, you are supporting like engagement or cautious engagement with the government of Afghanistan. At the same time, you are also stressing the importance of development as a means probably to resolve this security situation.
I think that it should be, it's the world community, we should be realistic. I remember Taliban in '95 when they killed Iranian diplomats in Mazar-e-Sharif. Yes, it was time, yes. But now it's Taliban, it was 30 years old in time, 30, 35, the brutal fighters. Today this became 50, 60 years old. There's some evolution of Taliban. It is, yes, they would like to peace, stability in their country. They would like to manage on the base of their tradition. We should respect them. We should respect their willingness. Why SCO is attractive. For example, in Samarkand summit last year, they joined to SCO as a partners of dialogue. Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Maldives, and United Arab Emirates, for example. Yeah? Why? Because they see that in this organization, first of all, respecting your sovereignty, territorial integrity, and not interference in your internal affairs. It is main principles. Yeah. We're not interference. The same Afghanistan, if here is all think tanks and military men every day looking to the world news, last month, Afghanistan, there no one case of terrorist attacks. We witness it perhaps. Yeah, it is, yes. They take steps for fighting against it. Yes, their approach for us, neighboring Central Asian countries, which developing on democracy way and more open, there we're witnessing that they taking such way, maybe not compliance with our view of, but nevertheless they doing, because there is not state structure working during 40 years. Nevertheless, it was government of Ashraf Ghani or others, but they not worked well. Where these 300 security services which were trained during their disappeared immediately during one day after Ashraf Ghani ran away. That's why I think that we should engage with Taliban. We should work, we should influence to them. When I talked to that Mutaki about that you should have take steps, follow, yes, you would like to, by Sharia law. Yes, we see the United Arab Emirates is the Sharia law, or Qatar or Bahrain, but it is developing, where every country would like to develop partnership with this country. Saudi Arabia now showing example as they liberalizing and developing. I said you can follow their way. Yes, the women's rights, and we see as in government of Emirate or Saudi Arabia as a woman very active. there in state affairs, public affairs. That's why we should be pragmatic. We should look seriously. When I talked to him, he was followed by former commanders, but now they in government, and he said, this man said the right way to us. Yes, I said yes, because we Central Asian countries, if we're looking years previous time, we had mine between our neighboring country, Tajikistan. We 20 years had not contact with our neighboring countries. We self-isolated Uzbekistan, nevertheless with the core Central Asia, but this policy not worked. Mm-hmm. And President Shavkat Mirziyoyev, when he came, he said all issues, all problems we should resolve on mutual compromise, by reasonable compromise, and by taking interest of all sides, both sides. It is working, and now Central Asia economically developing, it became more attractive for investors. And for example, every day, Uzbek-Tajik border crossing 20,000 people. And we had the problem with transborder river. We had strongly state against construction by our neighboring countries, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, any hydropower station on transborder rivers. But now we engage it. We're constructing this, participating in construction of this hydropower station, and it raises mutual trust and mutual respect between neighboring countries. The same, I think, this should be with Afghanistan. We should go by this way.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Norov, you seem to be talking about this very encouraging development of the regional countries inside SCO to work together for the benefits of, in the spirit, I would say, the win-win spirit. Yeah. And that reminds me of this much talked about, this China, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, this railway. Yeah. Where are we now?
Thank you. It is, I could say that One Belt, One Road initiative was announced by President Xi Jinping in 2013 in Astana. This year, it is 10 years of this initiative. But this initiative rises on, I think, it is opinion that it is raised on the base of experience which China, leadership of China could accumulate by the activity of Shanghai Cooperation. When these principles, mutual trust, mutual respect, mutual benefit, mutual construction, give some positive impact, that's why it was initiative. But this initiative has a deep historical roots. It's a Great Silk Road. If we're looking to the history of Great Silk Road, there's not only China developed by Central Asia, Bukhara, Samarkand, Mavars, the cities with this made flourish. It should be not forgotten. Today, tomorrow I will participate in session for security of artificial intelligence. But artificial intelligence, all of them today rise it on the base of algorithm. Without algorithm, many things, I worked in Europe as ambassador. I trained my colleagues there, educated that algorithm, it is not Latin words. It is the name of our ancestor, Al-Khwarizmi. Al-Khwarizmus, algorithmus. He wrote the book of algebra. He introduced the number 0 in 10th century, and his book was translated in 12th in Latin, and then Europe recognized it by them, the many such knowledge, and it is algebra we're now studying in all parts of the world. But at the same time, it was time when Silk Road through this road transmitted. But we should not forget, today Internet plays an important role for globalization and developing by sharing information, share knowledge.
It's like the digitalization of the economy.
Yes, now, but we should not forget the paper, Samarkand paper played the same role in 8th century, but this paper came from China. It is Chinese, but this, and it was time when in Europe was Inquisition, when in the Arab Caliphate in this time, Islamic Caliphate, the many Aristotle, Platon, Euclid, and many Greek scientists' book was translated in the Arabic language. And then it was time when used skin of animals. When Arab Caliphate came to Central Asia, they brought the Quran written on the animal skin. By Samarkand paper, give impetus for spreading this knowledge. That's why algorithm, Abu Ali ibn Sina, Avicenna in medicine are great names. So this memory, historical memory, very strong in Central Asian countries, mostly in Uzbekistan, in our generation, and Uzbekistan in this time played the role for developing the Islamic civilization, the first and the same time Renaissance, first Renaissance and second Renaissance now. And that's why we talking about this railroad, which you mentioned, it is important to us. Central Asia, landlocked country. Uzbekistan, double landlocked. It is two countries in the world, Liechtenstein and Uzbekistan. Sometimes in the goods which we exporting or importing, 60% of price, it is the price of transporting. That's why China, Central Asia for China, one of the main route for transporting the goods to Europe and back. For example, last decades, perhaps 10 times rise at transporting by railroad the goods to Europe, from 1,700 trains to 90,000 trains now per year transported. 80% of these goods transported through Central Asia, mostly through Kazakhstan. But today, this Kyrgyzstan, China, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, very important route for connecting, first of all, China with Central Asia, but with Europe, Middle East. We see as a Middle Eastern countries, the economy is growing and now is more perspective. For example, now the Saudi Arabia company Aqua Power in United Arab Emirates, Monstar, I think, they are now engaged in multi-billion-dollar project in Uzbekistan. So connection through road. If China is saying, if you would like to be rich, you construct the road.
Yes, that's right. And lastly, of course, we know that, for example, BRICS group, they expanded to include many more countries. And then we are seeing the list of countries waiting to join the SCO. What's the next stage of the development for SCO?
So in the Samarkand summit last year, it was signed a special document about joining Iran. Iran, from 2003, if I'm not mistaken, they became the observer of SCO, and now they joined it to SCO, and they, in India, the final decision made, and in Iran now, full-fledged member of SCO. Now Belarus, the same, in India, summit was signed a document for memorandum, and the Belarusian side would like to be the full-fledged member. So there is not restriction for membership for SCO, that any country can join. And what is important, that this SCO play important role for peace, stability, and sustainable development in the Euro-Asian continent. Because member states and observer states, if we're looking, it is perhaps 60% of territory, covering 60% of territory of Euro-Asia, and perhaps more than half, more than 3 billion people. The population
yes,
this covering, yes. And this, I told you, they're strongly following the main principles of international law and high respect to United Nations documents. It makes our organization is attractive, very attractive.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for speaking with us. With that, we come to the end for today's discussion. You can also find us on the CGTN app on YouTube. I'm Xu Qinduo. Thanks for being with us. See you next time.